What is up guys, Jarv here, back today jumping into Destiny. In today's video, we're taking a look at the top 10 weapons you should be crafting ahead of Season 22. We have just over a month before Season 22 kicks off, so there's no time quite like the present to get yourself prepared for the up and coming season, so be sure to stick around and enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to leave a comment and rating down below, and remember to subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. But without further delay guys, let's jump into the video. Now, since the launch of Lightfall, we've had some very exciting weapons added to the game, as well as some reprised weapons now become craftable. This has changed up the meta in PvE considerably, and with that in mind and Season 22 around the corner, we have a mid-season patch merely days away, on top of another patch in Season 22. Now, Bungie have given us a little bit of insight, including buffs to hand cannons, improvements to lightweight frame shotguns, bows, as well as adjustments to pulse rifles. Now, with so many great weapons now being craftable, it's really difficult to cram them into just 10. So I'm going to pick out the best of the bunch. As always, if you have any suggestions or recommendations, then be sure to sound off down in the comments below. Now, to kick us off, we're going to start off with pulse rifles and the BXR-55 Battler. This is a legendary energy pulse rifle that you can obtain through Xur's treasure hoard over in Eternity. You can either hand in strange coins over at the Star Horse, opening treasure hoard chests, or just by running the Dares of Eternity activity. This is the #1 pulse rifle being used in Destiny 2 right now in PvE, and is also #1 in its archetype. Now, the Battler is unique as it is a legacy frame, which is a custom frame to increase accuracy, stability, and targeting when firing from the hip. And on top of that, it has some of the best perks available on pulse rifles. Now, the Battler comes with 6 perks in each column, with one of the best roles available being Demolitionist and Incandescent. This is the go-to PvE role, and most definitely should be a weapon you should consider crafting. Now, another viable choice is the Different Times. This is a legendary kinetic pulse rifle, which is a rapid fire frame. It deals strand damage and sits in your kinetic slot. Now, this is brand new for Season of the Deep. Now, you can earn weapon patterns for this pulse by running deep dive or salvage activities, by leveling up the seasonal vendor for Season of the Deep over in the Helm, and if you've unlocked the correct seasonal upgrades, you can pick up 1 free deep sight resonance weapon per week, which will gradually allow you to unlock the weapon pattern to craft this incredible pulse. It has 7 perks in each column and comes with things like Subsistence, which is where defeating targets partially reload the mag from reserves, as well as a new perk for Season 20 called Hatchling, where precision final blows or rapidly defeating targets with non-precision weapons spawn a threadling at the target's location. Now, this is the second most popular pulse rifle this season, but is #1 in its archetype for 540 RPM pulses. So if you don't find yourself with a great pulse currently going into Season 22, then either the Battler or Different Times are both worthy choices. Now, next up, we're going to move on to Scout Rifles and the Tarnished Mettle. This was launched back in Season of Plunder and is a legendary energy scout rifle that deals arc damage. This is lightweight frame, so it has superb handling, and you move faster when you have the weapon equipped. Now, this is one of the most popular scout rifles in the game, sitting at #2 for 200 RPM scout rifles. Now, if you don't have the weapon patterns for this, it is now only obtainable via the gunsmith or if Xur sells it, and those will only be regular versions, so you'll need to use your deep sight harmonizers that you can earn through your season pass. 3 are available on the free track, with another 3 available on the premium track. You have a maximum of 6 currently in the game, so you'll need to spend them wisely, and this weapon is a serious consideration for making that investment. Now, it comes with 7 perks in each column, but this scout is absolutely incredible for not only vaulting targets, but also clearing massive groups of adds. It's one of the most diverse scout rifles in the game and perfect for end game activities. Some of the standout trait combos are things like Demolitionist and Vault Shot. Now, Vault Shot is where reloading this weapon after defeating a target overcharges this weapon for a short time, causing it to jolt its next hit. You can also roll with Rapid Hit and Explosive Payload, which is a popular role for scout rifles, and a perk definitely worth considering is Shoot to Loot. This got a recent update, and now shooting an orb of power will pick it up, and shooting an ammo brick picks it up and automatically reloads all your equipped weapons from reserves. So you can pick up orbs of power and ammo using a single weapon, and a perk like Explosive Payload will make picking those things up so much easier. Now, other potential viable choices though are the Doom of Chelchis, which is a Void Scout rifle, and the Trustee, which is a Solar Scout rifle. Now the Doom of Chelchish you can get from the King's Fall raid, and the Trustee you can get from the Deepstone Crypt raid. So if you're not a keen raider, then the Tarnished Mettle is absolutely up there with one of the best choices available. Now next up we're going to move on to sniper rifles, and we have the Succession, a legendary kinetic sniper rifle that you can earn through the Deepstone Crypt raid. Whenever the Deepstone Crypt is featured, you can farm all the encounters to your heart's content, making it a perfect farming opportunity to earn the weapon patterns for all the Deepstone Crypt weapons, including the Succession. Now this is an aggressive frame, so it deals high damage but has high recoil, but this is the #1 sniper rifle being used in Destiny 2 PvE, and is the #1 for the 72 RPM archetype. Now it has 7 perks in each column, with the standout combination being Reconstruction and Vorpal Weapon. Now Reconstruction is where the weapon slowly reloads itself over time up to double the capacity. Now Vorpal Weapon will provide a 15% increase to damage against bosses, vehicles and guardians with their super active. Another alternative for that would be Firing Line though, which increases your precision damage by up to 20%, and this is when you're near 2 or more allies. And much like the scout rifles though, if you're not a keen raider, then another viable choice is called a Distant Pull. This is a legendary kinetic sniper rifle, and is the #1 sniper for the 140 RPM archetype. That is for the rapid fire frames, which have deeper ammo reserves. This is brand new for Season of the Deep, which once again you can earn via the deep dive activities, the salvage activities, or just by focusing seasonal engrams over in the helm. Now this only has 6 perks in each column, making it easier to get a great roll, but if you intend to craft it, there's some great perk combinations available, including Ambitious Assassin and Explosive Payload being the most popular choice, with other viable combinations being Triple Tap and Focus Fury, or Overflow and Headstone. Naturally this won't deal as much damage as the Succession, but if you're looking for a great PvE sniper, then this is also another viable choice. Now next up we're going to move on to shotguns, and we have the Until Its Return. This is a legendary kinetic shotgun that deals strand damage, which is a rapid fire frame. This in fact fires full auto with deeper ammo reserves. Now this weapon is so good, I made a dedicated video on it earlier in the season. As a Season of the Deep weapon, you can earn it via the Season of the Deep activities, and in the right hands and with the right perks, this is basically a legendary 4th Horseman. Now this is the 2nd most popular shotgun used in PvE currently, and is the #1 for the 140 RPM archetype. Now this also has 6 perks in each column. Now my personal go-to role is Autoloading Holster and Cascade Point. Now this makes it fantastic for taking out those tankier targets and increasing its rate of fire as a result of Cascade. Other viable choices though are Overflow and Trench Barrel, or even Overflow and Cascade Point. It's most certainly a weapon you should not be sleeping on this season, so if you haven't unlocked the weapon pattern for it, then I would highly recommend adding this to your list. Now another viable choice for shotguns is the Heritage. This is a legendary kinetic shotgun as well. This one though is pinpoint slug frame, so it fires a single slug round. Now this is the #2 shotgun for the 65 RPM archetype, and you'll find this shotgun in the Deepstone Crypt raid. Much like the Succession we just covered, you can farm the Deepstone Crypt when it's the featured raid, once again allowing you to earn the weapon patterns for this. Now this has some pretty incredible rolls, things like Reconstruction and Recombination. Now as we know, Reconstruction slowly reloads the mag over time up to double capacity, but Recombination is where elemental final blows increase the damage of this weapon's next shot. That is a very deadly combination on this shotgun, and is most definitely a roll well worth considering. But as we mentioned a few times already, if you're not a keen raider or find it hard to get teams together, then the Until Return will most definitely do you justice. Now next up we're going to move on to grenade launchers, and there is a standout contender here. It comes in the form of Forbearance, the legendary Arc Energy grenade launcher. Now incredibly this is #2 for grenade launchers, but sits #1 for 72 RPM archetypes. This is unique in the sense it's a wave frame, which means it's a one-shot handheld grenade launcher where projectiles release a wave of energy when it comes in contact with the ground. Now we do have a few wave frames in the game now. This one though is available from the Vow of the Disciple raid. Now the Vow of Disciple can also be a featured raid, meaning technically when it is, you can farm for weapon patterns for this. And it's with that being said, this has some unique perk combinations on it. The go-to role though is Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction. Now Ambitious Assassin overflows the mag based on the number of rapid kills before reloading, with Chain Reaction creating a elemental damage explosion with each final blow. And when you stack that with its origin trait called Soul Drinker, which restores health on reload based on the amount of hits before reloading, you've got an incredible ad clearing weapon that continuously regenerates your health. Other viable choices though are Unrelenting and Chain Reaction. Now Unrelenting is where rapidly defeating targets triggers health regen, and Guardians and powerful combatants counters more than one kill. Surprisingly, this stacks with Soul Drinker, allowing you to get health regeneration more often. Either of those roles are incredible choices, and I would highly recommend crafting either of those and ensuring you have this weapon in your arsenal. Now next we're going to move on to machine guns, and we have the Commemoration, a legendary void power machine gun that you can obtain via the Deepstone Crypt raid. This one is an adaptive frame, so it's got a well-rounded grip, is reliable and sturdy. Now this is the most popular machine gun currently used in Destiny 2 and is also number 1 for the 450 RPM archetype. Now this has 9 perks in each column, and as a result of some of the changes to Deepstone Crypt and the introduction of craftable raid weapons, they also introduced some new perks on this machine gun. The go-to role, and one I highly recommend crafting, is Reconstruction and Killing Tally. Now Killing Tally is where kills increase this weapon's damage until it's stowed or reloaded, and naturally Reconstruction will reload the magazine up to double its capacity. Other alternatives to Killing Tally are Rampage and Dragonfly for ad clearing, or if you fancy giving yourself pretty much an infinite overshield if you're running a Void class, then it can also roll with Repulsor Brace. This is an absolutely incredible machine gun and one I highly recommend crafting. But once again, another viable choice is the Retrofit Escapade. Now this is probably one of the hardest machine guns to currently obtain, as the only way to obtain it is via the gunsmith, or if Xur even choose to sell it. So far that's not been the case, making this one of the rarest and hardest machine guns to earn currently in Season 21. That being said though, if you already have the weapon pattern for it, then this sits at number 3 for machine guns this season, but at number 1 for the 900 RPM archetype. That makes this a rapid fire frame, and whilst it won't hit quite as hard as a Commemoration, it has some unique and alternative perks. The go-to combination is 4th times the charm and target lock, which is the role that I use personally, and the fact that nearly 60% of roles have that combination suggests it's a perk combination that you can't sleep on, and you should most definitely craft if you can get the opportunity. As we mentioned earlier with the Tarnished Mettle, if you are waiting for vendors to sell this weapon, then any of those deep sight harmonizers that you have remaining will be well worth investing in a Retrofit Escapade. Now from here we're going to move on to rocket launchers, and next we have the Apex Predator. This is a legendary solar rocket launcher. Now this is a popular weapon this season with the introduction of craftable weapons inside the Last Wish raid. That's where you can pick up this weapon by earning weapon patterns, either by completing the bounty from Hawthorne over in the tower, or as random deep sight resonance drops from completing Last Wish raid encounters. This sits at number 3 for the 20 RPM archetype and has 7 perks in each column. It even has a new origin trait called Explosive Pact, which is where the weapon gains bonus stability and reload speed when activating a grenade ability, and healing grenades and grenade final blows grant additional stacks of that bonus. That is brand new for Season 21, and the standout perk combinations are Reconstruction and also Bait and Switch. Now Bait and Switch was introduced in Season 16, and this is where dealing damage with all equipped weapons within a short time will give this weapon a damage bonus. This increases damage by 35% for 10 seconds, and when you combine that with Reconstruction, which will reload the magazine gradually over time up to double its capacity, this makes it one of the best damage dealing rocket launchers available in the game. It's absolutely crystal clear why nearly 50% of players have that role specifically, so if you haven't got the weapon pattern for it, or you haven't crafted that exact role, then make sure to add that to your list and add it to your inventory before Season 22 kicks off. Now next up we're going to move on to trace rifles, and we have the Path of Least Resistance. This is a legendary arc trace rifle that launched in Season of the Seraph. If you don't have this, you'll need to wait for either Banshee to sell it over in the tower, or Xur to sell it once again over the weekend. And by using your deep sight harmonizers, you'll be able to convert those into weapon patterns. Now this is an adaptive frame and is one of the best legendary trace rifles in the game. The go-to combinations are things like Shoot to Loot and Vault Shot, Subsistence and Vault Shot, or if you're looking to take on tankier targets, then Stats for All and One for All is another viable choice. If though you are still struggling to get weapon patterns for that, then the Acacia's Dejection, which you can get from the Root of Nightmares raid that launched in Lightfall, is another top tier choice. This one is a solar trace rifle that has some pretty outstanding perks on it. It can roll things like Reconstruction and Incandescent, If Incandescent isn't your thing, then it can also roll with things like Target Lock, a brand new trait called Paracausal Affinity, Vorpal Weapon, and even Frenzy. You are genuinely sport for choice on this trace rifle, and if you don't have either the Path of Least Resistance or the Acacia's Dejection just yet, I would highly recommend getting them crafted before the end of the season. Now next up we're going to move on to submachine guns, and we have the Rapacious Appetite, a legendary stasis submachine gun that launched in Season of the Deep. You can earn this via deep dive activities, and this one is an aggressive frame, so it deals high damage but has high recoil. Now if you've used the Ikelos SMG, you'll be very familiar with this archetype, and this sits at number 3 for the 750 RPM. Now this comes with 7 perks in each column, with the standout trait combo being Perpetual Motion and Target Lock. Other viable choices though include 4th times a charm with Target Lock, or even Envious Assassin and Headstone. It's certainly up there with one of the best weapons that was introduced in Season of the Deep. But since we mentioned the Ikelos SMG, this is also another viable choice. This sits at number 1 for 750 RPMs and number 2 for SMGs overall. As we mentioned, this is also an aggressive frame and has some pretty outstanding ad clearing perk combinations, including Feeding Frenzy and Volt Shot, which nearly 40% of players had as a perk trait combination. Now the Ikelos SMG is an incredibly hard weapon to earn right now, let alone get deep sight resonance versions of it. It is however in Zer's loot pool, so should he sell it over the course of the weekend, then deep sight harmonizers are definitely on the menu, and I would highly recommend investing in this SMG if you haven't got the craftable version of it just yet. And finally, this brings us on to hand cannons. Now this season has blessed us with 2 great hand cannons. We have the targeted Redaction, which is a legendary void hand cannon. This one's aggressive frame, so it's number 1 when it comes to 120 RPMs. Now as an aggressive frame, it does have a slow reload, so you will see Outlaw and Envy Assassin and even Triple Tap as viable traits. And you can even choose to pair this with Destabilizing Rounds that was introduced in Season 20, which is where final blows cause nearby targets to become volatile. That is currently the most popular choice, with nearly 10% of roles having that combination, with another viable choice being Outlaw and Explosive Payload. Now as a brand new weapon this season, you can earn this via Season of the Deep activities, and the same can be said for the Spare Rations, which is a legendary kinetic hand cannon, which is number 2 for the 140 RPM archetype. This means it's an adaptive frame, and whilst it looks similar to the targeted Redaction, it has some slightly different perks available on it as well. Now in general, the perks favour PvP more than PvE, with Slide Shot and Opening Shot being the go-to role. It can also have things like Rapid Hit and Kill Clip, which I'm sure you'll agree is a very dirty Crucible role. Either way, both are fantastic hand cannons, well worth crafting and easily obtainable, and for certainly are things to consider when it comes to getting prepared for Season 22. So there we have it guys, a good look at some of the weapons that you should consider crafting ahead of Season 22. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to check out one of the 2 videos you see here in these cards for more Destiny 2 content. And if you want to keep up to date with everything to do with Destiny 2, then be sure to hit subscribe as well. I'm going to be to the game as always guys, and I will catch you all again very soon.